Growing up, I used to not like horror. In fact, I was known as that little who closed his eyes during scary movie. Eventually, I started to appreciate the horror genre as I got into filmmaking. To me, it's a genre that's willing to push the boundaries and makes everything exciting. During quarantine, I was browsing for some new games to play when I noticed this little game for sale. I bought it and figured, why not? It might be fun. Little did I know that it would kickstart my journey through Resident Evil, one of the greatest video game franchises. And I don't say that lightly. This series helped foster the gaming industry as we know it today. Without these games, we only have half the games we do now. Although like most horror classics, they can be a little dated and may be hard for modern audiences to enjoy. Well, I for one want to prove them wrong. So let's get our ink ribbons, bring all that ammo, and load our rocket launchers to kick off the Resident Evil retrospective. Cue the intro.
Resident Evil.
While horror was thriving in cinemas, it was struggling on home consoles. Not to say that there weren't any good ones, they were just buried underneath all the bad ones. One day, a young Shinji Mikami was commissioned to remake a game called Sweet Home, a 1989 Japanese game based on the movie. It was a unique game that emphasized puzzle solving, inventory management, and survival. The creator, Tokuro Fujiwara, wanted to see this game remade with better graphics thanks to the power of the PlayStation 1. He entrusted Mikami, who was initially reluctant because he hated being scared. After all, the previous game he worked on was Goof Troop, but that's why Fujiwara wanted him in the first place, because he would understand what's scary and what's not. However, during development, Capcom lost the rights to Sweet Home. Instead of scrapping the project, they decided to make an original IP. Just reading this now, I find it hilarious that Resident Evil was starting off as a remake, a franchise known as the master of remaking, if you will. It was originally going to be a first-person game until Mikami discovered Alone in the Dark, which influenced him to adopt a cinematic fixed-view camera system. This would also inspire them to pre-render environments, meaning that these are not real, but pictures instead. Like in most pre-productions, a lot of ideas were cut: cooperative gameplay, AI companions, and characters like Dewey, the comic relief, and Gelzer, a big cyborg. No, I'm not making this up. After all this hard work, Biohazard, also known as Resident Evil in America, would release in 1996. So now that we got all that dev history out of the way, let's see how the story holds up.
Resident Evil.
We open with a live-action cutscene, technically making it the first and best live-action adaptation of the series, of the Special Tactics and Rescue Service, also known as STARS, set to investigate a series of bizarre murders occurring on the outskirts of Raccoon City. After losing contact with Bravo Team, Alpha Team is sent to investigate their disappearance. This includes Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Albert Wesker, Barry Burton, Joseph
Joseph!
Well, that's unfortunate. They're attacked by monstrous dogs and Brad cowardly flies away.
No! Don't
Everyone flees to a nearby abandoned mansion, entering the survival horror.
What is this?
Wow, what a mansion!
Captain Wesker, where's Chris?
Stop it! Don't open that door!
No, that's not AI, these are real human actors. Even if you haven't played this game, you probably know about the horrible voice acting. It's like everyone here is learning how to read or is trapped in an episode of Blue's Clues.
Oh, Jill, this house is dangerous. There are terrible demons. Ouch!
Now, to be fair, voice acting in video games was still fresh back in the day, and it's not like the process we have now. Plus, the game was made in Japan, so someone had to translate the lines for America, which had to be edited by Japanese developers, who definitely didn't know English.
Jill, you're here too.
Yes, you're here too?
Look, I lost my way.
Let's get going.
It's terrible acting, yet it's like The Room, funny and enjoyable to watch. Plus, we can't forget iconic lines like these.
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
It's not the actor's fault. The guy who played Barry Byrne was literally picked off the street and given the role. He was a school principal. Say what you will about these guys, but I love them. They unknowingly gave birth to legendary characters. We investigate the dining room, finding a puddle of blood, which leads us to the first and number one enemy, zombies. These are traditional zombies. They stick out their hands and walk towards you. However, they're walking bullet sponges and won't go down in one shot, so you either unload your entire magazine or just run away. Once you go back to the previous room, you're left on your own and have to survive the night. Playing classic Resident Evil is different from any game you play nowadays. First off, you can't move or change the camera since it's at a fixed angle. The only way to do that is to move into the next room. It's a brilliant way to jump scare players. This also means you have tank controls. This wasn't the first game to use them, but since we live in the joystick age, I'll have to explain this to the young ones. Tank controls were mostly used on the D-pad. Pressing up would move the character in the direction they are facing, down backs them up, and left and right rotates them. Now I know tank controls tend to turn people off, but it's actually appropriate here. It adds to the horror of Resident Evil, trying and panicking to escape enemies. You have to carefully plan your steps because one wrong move can get you killed. Another thing that can kill you is poor inventory management. Ammo is scarce and you only have a certain amount of slots available. You have to carefully plan how many bullets you're going to use and what's necessary to take, because you'll need that extra item space for puzzle pieces and ink ribbons, which is the only way you can save. There's a limited amount of them, so you have to carefully save when you need to, and if you run out or forget to save, you'll risk restarting from the last checkpoint. It's a great way to add even more fear. Plus, every level is filled with puzzles, so you'll be required to use your brain rather than shoot your way out of here. I still find it hilarious that this work environment has secret rooms and devices that are probably a major inconvenience to these people. Luckily, you have an item box that's pretty much an ender chest, so you can store extra items you won't need till later. There are healing items like health spray, which fully heals you, and herbs, which can be combined with others to have greater effects. Now let's talk about guns. The Beretta is your standard handgun. Don't leave any safe room without it. The Remington is a pump action shotgun, great for damage, and can one-shot zombies if done right. The Colt Python is a secret weapon you can find in the mansion. Trust me, it's worth the effort. Jill gets a bazooka which holds 3 different rounds, while Chris gets a flamethrower, although it's a temporary item and you won't be using it for too long. And last but not least, we got the combat knife. It's basically the hardest weapon to master. Only use it as a last resort, unless you're a pro and want to do knife only runs. You have 2 ways to play the game, Jill or Chris. Jill is easy mode while Chris is hard mode. Both characters will experience the same events, yet meet different characters. Jill will be stuck with Barry, and Chris will have Rebecca. Barry will pull your ass out of the fire, and Rebecca can heal you. I recommend playing as Jill first because she has more item slots, a lockpick, and an additional weapon. Plus, Jill's playthrough has more iconic lines.
Jill, here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the master of unlocking, take it with you.
As you explore the mansion, you'll find more than just zombies around here. There are infected dogs whose bite is worse than their bark. The crows are just the worst. God, fighting these guys suck. Later the game will throw hunters at you. Proceed with extreme caution with these guys. You'll also be fighting bosses like giant snakes, plants, sharks, and spiders. As scary and difficult they can be, they aren't crows, so I'll take it. While you're doing this, you'll be solving the mystery of Umbrella, a corporation seemingly responsible for this incident and a traitor within stars. After investigating multiple locations, you find a secret lab filled with chimeras, total nightmares to fight and not worth the ammo. You can also find your missing comrades Jill or Chris here. They require MO discs, so I hope you were saving those. After more searching, you find out Wesker is the traitor working for Umbrella, with him even manipulating Barry to work for him. All of this was to run tests on the BOWs and reveal his own creation, the Tyrant.
Chris? Stop it.
Tyrant ends up killing Wesker and then tries to attack you, but you successfully kill it. Suddenly, the self-destruct activates and you need to alert Brad immediately. Unfortunately, that Tyrant isn't dead yet. We're gonna need a bigger gun.
It's coming! Jill! Kill that monster! You're our Amazon, Jill!
You successfully escape with all your friends and live to fight another day. Well, at least that was my ending. Believe it or not, this game has multiple endings. Your choices throughout the game can affect what happens. Barry could die, Rebecca could die, or the mansion doesn't explode. And the game doesn't tell you that. So you have to figure it out all on your own. After beating the game, you'll be rated on how you did. This encourages you to do better next time, thus earning you more rewards for faster runs, like costumes and the famous infinite rocket launcher. To say this game was a success is a big understatement. The game was estimated to sell around 200,000 copies, but instead sold millions. Instantly became a hit and cemented itself as Capcom's next big franchise, which was needed after the decline of arcades. And it wouldn't stop there. The game would receive a PC port with uncensored footage and brand new weapons for Jill and Chris. The Sega Saturn would get auto-aiming, something that was cut out of the original version, enhanced graphics, gore, battle mode, and exclusive enemies like a gold tyrant and a zombie Wesker. Guess this port isn't canon. And believe it or not, a Game Boy Color. Well, kinda. You see, Capcom canceled this port due to limited hardware, thinking it was impossible to recapture the game on a handheld console. Yet here it is! Somehow the developers did it! The only reason you can see this is because someone got it built and leaked it online. While unfinished, it's pretty impressive someone was able to miniaturize Resident Evil, and technically, this would have been the first handheld game. Eventually, we got an enhanced version of RE known as the Director's Cut, later followed up by the DualShock version. It rearranges items, has new looks for characters, and has a new soundtrack that's, well... If you're interested, you can get a PS Plus subscription and see for yourself. And finally, the DS port, Deadly Silence. For the 10th anniversary, Capcom finally made RE1 portable, and what an amazing port! Classic and Rebirth mode, the 180 turn from RE3, and first person knife action, making those knives more useful than the original. It also has a cooperative mode where you work together, and a competitive mode for the high score. If you can't get a PS1, then this is the best way for modern players to play the original RE1. However, good luck finding one that's not $100. And of course, there's the remake. But that is a story for another day. Resident Evil 1 is a special game. While the controls and writing may be outdated, it presents a challenge that's often missing in modern games. Its gameplay is very addicting. It's very impressive what the developers were able to achieve at the time, and you can tell a lot of hard work was put into it. This one game would spawn a franchise worth of novels, mangas, movies, and of course, a highly anticipated sequel. Next time, let's get out of that mansion and explore the wonderful Raccoon City. I'm sure nothing bad will happen.
Guy's a maniac. Why'd he bite me?